Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Frances.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna. Welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. We are at number 70 tonight, and we are very, very proud that we've made it this far. We honestly didn't even think we'd make it past, episode 20, because Hannah could never make it here. Too many time constraints. We're both overly busy individuals.
And it turns into the Hugger games when we're battling over things that we disagree on. So just a little bit. Just a little bit.
So we're very excited tonight that we're able to actually have episode 70. Again, I'm sick. Very sorry for that. So there will be a little bit of raspiness, probably a little coughs. But we are doing a live show. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. Not a super heavy episode. You know, we've done some very heavy episodes. And if you haven't checked out our Other Side podcast, we created a little more opinionist type podcast.
B-side rants.
Yeah, it called the Through the Attic Window. And the whole point of that was to try and bring everything in a very skeptical manner right to the show, and then do kind of more of our off-tangent, ranty type stuff.
Not so science-specific, source-heavy. It's more what we think, emotional drives, and things like that.
Yeah. And the goal was to instill it and ensure that we created a better environment here for everybody, shorten the show a little bit, and then still allowed everybody to enjoy the rants and stuff that you love from Hannah, because he has the best rants, and his rants are definitely the best.
Wow, that's the first time anyone has ever said that. You know what? I will say that my rants are probably the shortest ones on the show. I'm very concise with my rants.
Could be a little bit there, buddy. So tonight we're going to talk about a new telescope that could be as big as Earth. It could be
as big as Earth.
They're unveiling it. So they've already built this?
It's on the process, kind of, sort of, like a Death Star in the process.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's huge. It's massive. It's as big as Trump says it is.
Exactly. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that for our science segment tonight. We also have a very special interview with a close friend of ours named Chris Watson from Podunk Polymath Podcast. And so we're going to have him on to talk about the start of his podcast, his interests, and how he's bringing social justice to the South. We're going to close the segment or the show out talking about panic in the market. And basically, we're going to talk about a survival guide to pending market crashes. And that was Hannah's favorite topic this week. He's messaged me on and off.
I'm torn. A Death Star-sized telescope, or like a survival guide to the... I haven't given it a name yet. I don't know if we can call it something like the Trump session or something like that.
We're going to have to rename the episode now, Hannah.
No. Wait until it happens, and then we'll tag it or something.
Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be on and off, live versus non-live. So we're running into some life struggles. For example, I have to go out to Dallas for business, and I could be out there as long as a month. I don't know exactly yet, depending on how the business picks up. And so there's a possibility we may be doing some pre-recorded shows. But we have some amazing guests coming out. We're going to have Gleb Tisbergy from Rational Politics Project. We're going to be talking with David Teachout about the psychology behind mindfulness, or if it's just a bunch of woo-woo. We have Jeremiah Bannister coming on to talk about Teen Tiny Dancer and Paleo Radio and the future after cancer. We're going to have a discussion on International Women's Day, and we'll be talking to a whole range of people about what we can do as good allies to help promote International Women's Day. We're going to have a former Christian artist, though they're not popular. It's not popular by all means. And I say this in joking because I used to play in a Christian band in high school and just outside of high school. I have one album. We've made no money that I can remember. If we made any money, I don't remember. But it's funny because in my conservative upbringing, I had the guy that ran the band, his name is Matthew. he was a staunch Christian, more conservative even than I was growing up. And I basically got kicked out of the band for moving towards a more liberal part, and I started to drink a little bit more, and I held different company.
You heretic.
Guess what? He is now an atheist, too. And we randomly reconnected on Facebook, and he's like, holy crap, I didn't know you were an atheist. And I was like, I didn't know you were an atheist. And so maybe it'll be a little bit of an exclusive show, not quite as much of a political show. I mean, we're not going to talk politics. We are going to reminisce about the past, and
I'm not going to sing along. I'm not.
You
gonna
might.
Do it.
I am actually working on figuring out how to rip the songs. I have a CD. I just don't have a CD ripper anymore because
CD ripper.
We don't need it. We don't need that with technology nowadays. But I actually have a CD from my youth from the band that we recorded, and I'm going to figure out before I have him on how we can play snippets from my own band, so Hannah can make fun of me.
We've got it. We're set. My laptop here will burn, and then we'll fire it into a digital copy and stuff it into your solid little white box there.
But the crowning achievement of things that we are going to do is we have a debate coming up between Aaron Furlong and the politest host of this show, Mr. Chris Hanna.
And I'm already cramming for it.
And he is. And they're going to be debating evolution. And that show will be a live show. And so we encourage everybody who's listening, send us questions. We don't care if it's for Chris or for Aaron. Aaron's a creationist. He believes in a literal 6-day creation. He is a presuppositional apologist as well.
We're debating evolution specifically. So
we are, yes.
For me as to why evolution.
Yes, we only want evolution questions.
Yeah.
We don't want spiritual questions. But we're going to open it up. And if anybody has questions, and we don't know if anybody will or not, but if people have questions, our goal is to have as many questions as we can be funneled at the two of them. So you can send your questions over at cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. Just put in the title, question for debate, and fill it out, and I'll make sure it gets aired. Unless I get like 100 of them, then I can't. But I'm going to guess we won't get 100 of them. So send over your questions. I will love to put them on the show. If you would like to suggest a topic for a show, all you got to do is contact us. Again, cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. Let us know what you're interested in, what you would like to share with other people, and we will be more than happy to tackle other topics that others have suggested. For example, in the past, somebody suggested vegetarianism and how it fits with my morals. We had libertarianism come up as something that we should have on the show. I even semi-discussed gun control more than one occasion based on some listeners' reviews. So
that gun control thing was pretty good too. I mean, it wasn't a horrible us yelling at him and him yelling at us. It was a good conversation. It was long, like almost 3
send
hours.
Us your opinions. Let us know what you think. cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. Again, tell us topics for the show right in the description, and we'll make sure we get some of them on. Now, without further ado, we have to talk about what you just said earlier, Hannah.
What did I say?
A Death Star. Because now my interest peaked even more. I need to understand why you call this a Death Star and why this has not made national news. Why is this something that's not on everybody's list? Why do I have to hear about it from you, whereas I'm not hearing about it in my Facebook feed, my Twitter feed, nothing? I think this is crazy that we're going to build this big of a telescope and nobody's talking about it.
Okay, so the thing, I'm listening to BBC, driving around, and I hear this guy with this suave British accent, and I'm not paying attention completely, and I hear him say, Earth-sized telescope. I'm like, no way. The whole Earth. And he's like, and they went on to explain, yes, it's in order to see the Milky Way galaxy's black hole, supermassive black hole at the very center. It's called Sagittarius A. And to see it, we would need a telescope the size of the Earth. And so the guy says, so we just built one. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And so they go on to explain that it's a simulated Earth-sized telescope. What they're doing is they're taking massive, massive pictures from all of the really, really high-end, best ones we have, or all of the telescopes all over the Earth. And what they're doing is they're stitching these images together. So imagine taking 1,000 photos with crappy cameras and then comparing that to one photo with one big camera. So each little low-res image stitched together, super high def, for those smaller pictures, and they're making what it would look like if we took a picture with a telescope the size of the Earth. That's the goal, so they can see the center of our galaxy. That's cool. That's not like wild, crazy, but boring. I mean, we're going to possibly see the first actual black hole that we humans have ever looked at.
That's crazy. I think that is somewhat crazy, to be honest with you. I mean, that's just insane. And you know, they're talking about event horizon snapshots, right? I mean, they're talking about what we're going to be able to see, things that we're going to be able to do with this. And you know, when we were kids growing up, what was one of the big things that happened, Hannah? What was one of the big things? We sent a telescope out into space to basically wander, right?
Yeah.
And send us images back.
And it left the solar system last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah. And that's crazy. You know, like when we were growing up, and we're not even that old. I mean, we're only in our 30s. That was like revolutionary. We're like, holy crap, we can actually start seeing far out into space. This is amazing. And I'll be honest, I for me, space, and we've talked about this before, space is a big thing for me. I really enjoy space. Not as much as evolution, but I do enjoy space quite a bit. And to now think that we're built a telescope that will allow us to see event horizons, that allow us to see black holes in a whole different... I mean, I feel bad. We should have Dan Batchelor over back just to talk about this subject, you know?
This was one of the topics that we touched on, is basically the new things and imagery things that he's working on for seeing stuff in deep space. And this is a different area, but he is looking at ways of seeing stuff in deep space too, using light in different ways. Stuff like everything we look at when it comes to looking at space, this is what we're doing. Because like you mentioned, we're doing black holes again. He's like, we're doing black holes again. It's like, yes, because these are some of the most important things of confirming scientific theory that we can possibly think of. So basically, the way that to describe this this telescope is that, for instance, astronomers can use a technique. It's called interferometry. And they use a technique to take information from two telescopes 100 kilometers apart. And this creates an image similar to that taken by a single telescope if it was 100 kilometers wide. So they're stitching these images together, and it is like the distance between them. So that's how they get this estimate of it being the size of the Earth. But at specific wavelengths of light, it works better in different situations. So speaking to the BBC, the University of Arizona astrophysicist, I'm going to see Fariel Ozel, he explained, if we've run upwards of 1 million simulations for many different configurations of what the gas might look like just outside the event horizon, and they think that a 1.3 millimeter wavelength is the right choice to see down to the event horizon. So the way that light works at the event horizon is speeding up. Obviously, it's getting closer and closer and closer to the speed of light, and then eventually you're beyond the boundary that light can no longer escape. So at that event horizon, stuff is moving unimaginably fast, and they can't see it. So they're trying to figure out the best wavelength to look at. So they've isolated using millions and millions of computer simulations that this wavelength is the right length. And so now they've got these telescopes all dialed in, and we're taking a global-sized telescope photo. And hopefully, once everything is ironed out, all the simulations and tests have been hit, they are going to point this theoretical or virtual telescope at the black hole at the center of our galaxy. Because we've theorized it, and Einstein's theories have said that, you know, event horizons exist, but we haven't been able to take a direct image. And obviously you can't see a black hole, and it'll look like a black shadow probably in space, but everything around it will highly illuminate a black hole. And we obviously know there's one at the center of our galaxy. So this is really, really important stuff. Confirming relativity and quantum mechanics, a variety of things that are going to be happening at the edge of physics as we know it, in cosmology and everything.
And I feel excited, I guess. So let's talk about what they're going to name the telescope. I think you stated that it was going to be called the Event Horizon Telescope. Is that correct?
Yep, the EHT.
The EHT. I like Event Horizon. And you know what's funny? And I'm going to go on a tangent here because I like
You're going to
that
the movie, aren't you?
I know. I love that movie, Event Horizon. It's like one of my favorite movies growing up. I love that movie. But hopefully we won't see anything happen like that, because, you know, that would inspire supernatural BS, and I'm not really for that.
Well, it's basically a wormhole ideal. So Sam Neill and I can't remember the other guy, Lawrence Fishburne, I believe it is. They, the Event Horizon, the whole idea of like going through black holes and alternate universes and stuff. So I mean, they took it to a horror movie edge, but this here, they're not going to be sending anything into a black hole or anything like that. We're just trying to get good images of it. The equivalent, what they're talking about is looking at Sagittarius A is the equivalent of standing in New York and reading the date on a penny in Germany, or seeing a grapefruit on the moon for someone standing on Earth. If successful, this entire virtual telescope, it will prove for the first time that black holes have event horizon, which is the edge. Obviously, nothing can escape. But so, like, we have theorized it, but like I said earlier, we haven't seen it yet. We have not directly observed it. And as we increase our technological abilities, the goal is to see this event horizon and another test, another validation of Einstein's general relativity theory. Can't think of anything better than that.
Yeah. And so some of the things that you wrote in our write-up, you talked about how it works, right? So let's talk a little bit about how the telescope works, because I think a lot of people want to know. I mean, maybe they don't. I want to know. How about that? I want to know how this telescope works, because it almost seems insane the amount of imagery that they got to put together. So they said, for instance, astronomers will be able to use this specific technique to take information from two telescopes 100 kilometers apart.
Yeah.
And create a single image. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. That's
what is the purpose of that?
Well, basically, it's like I said, it's like trying to imagine needing to get light from the center of the universe. So if you've ever pointed your camera, your phone at the moon and got like just a crappy little dot, just like really,
like a pale
huge.
Blue dot.
No, actually, we are a pale blue dot.
Okay,
but like
pale
when you
gray
point
dot.
your phone at the moon, like in your vision, in your eye, it's huge. It's a big hunk, and on your camera, it's just a little spot. It's really not big. And even when you zoom in, it's blurry. It's not so hot. So that's, resolution and the ability to get depth and light from long distance away, and how long your aperture stays open and all that. Well, when it comes to seeing deep, deep, deep light, you need to either let the sensor that receives the light open for a long, long time, or you need to change the way you grab that light. And so what we're doing with what these people are doing, I'm not a scientist who's doing this. I just am super excited about this. But they're taking these images and stitching them over and over and over and over. So imagine, like I said, 1,000 little photos to make one really, really good big one. What the resolution that they're talking about here is more than 1,000 times better than the Hubble telescope. We're talking really, really high quality images. And if the theory of relativity is correct, the black hole itself will be invisible, because not even light can escape, obviously. But it still might be seen as a dark silhouette. So Einstein's general relativity is what's being tested here, and it's been supported by decades worth of astronomical observations, all of the things that should happen around a black hole without us actually seeing one. It's kind of like the idea that nobody refutes the idea that atoms exist, or that electricity flows because of electrons. We couldn't see the electrons yet. We couldn't see the atoms yet. But as time has gone on, now we can see these types of things. And so it's validation of the reasons and things that we concluded of to why electricity does what it does. This is the same idea as another validation of Einstein's theory of relativity, and potentially could give us more information on how to mix the two between quantum and relativity. Because obviously we've mentioned multiple times on the show that at the large and fast, which is Einstein relativity, and the super small and absolutely weightless is quantum, they can't mix together. We can't have a theory that works with both of those at the same time, but they both work at a black hole. And seeing it may give us more information as to how to combine quantum and relativity, so we get a potential theory of everything. So this is a stepping stone. This is science working. This is a reason to fund our scientific endeavors, and why the government shouldn't shut down like PBS and stuff, because the kids need to think science is cool. And I wish people would learn more about this stuff.
Well, and the nice thing here, Hannah, is that, it's kind of going to put, this telescope's going to put that theory on the line, right? It's going to put it to practice. It's going to put this in a way that we're going to be able to say, yes, this is a good theory, or no, it's not, right?
Yeah,
or it needs to be modified.
If we look at a black hole with this telescope and can see it, Einstein and relativity, it's got a huge major blow to it. But I assume, in most cases, it's been validated that when we do look at a black hole, Einstein and relativity will hold true to the event horizon.
And if it doesn't, scientists will go, okay, now we got to figure out why.
Yeah.
What is the answer to why?
We're not going to start a war about it.
Well, yeah, some people may. You never know. I mean, there's a high probability some people might start a war on this. Who knows? And you know, so okay. So what else is going to happen from this? I mean, that's only the first step, right? I mean, this is just the bare minimum first step to what's going to happen.
Well, where do we go next? I mean, let's say we can see the Milky Way. We proved that everything that's going on at the center of our galaxy is exactly as expected. And we're learning more and more about what happens to things going closer to the event horizon. Well, let's find other black holes all over our galaxy then. They assume that there's a bunch of them just floating around in our galaxy. These are massive energy generators. This could be information and give us an insight as to the different kinds of matter that we can't even interact with in our environment in the universe right now. It's like dark matter and dark energy. Maybe this will give us an insight to that. If we can get a theory of everything out of seeing a black hole, then maybe we can use that theory to discern the properties and the constants and the things that are attributed to why our universe is expanding at a faster and faster rate from dark energy and dark matter. This is just, like I said, it's just another small step forward. It's big to people like you and me who pay attention to this, but I mean, this is just science pushing along another step. We needed to see a black hole, and so they said, well, we can't build a telescope as big as the entire planet, so let's use our awesome, well-evolved brains to create a virtual one that'll solve the problem just as well. Yeah.
No, I would like to see one as big as the planet, though.
I
would like to kind of see a Death Star type thing. You know, as long as it has a hole in it that we can shoot a couple of photon, missiles into and blow it up very easily. That's the one rule. We make a Death Star. That's a telescope. That somebody, because think about this, and maybe this is just me speculating. I probably shouldn't do this at this part of the show, but think about it. Trump's like, I'll fund this if I could put missiles in it that can blow, Russia up, or I could blow Germany up, or something like that, right?
Well, if you want to build an Earth-size telescope, then you're going to need an Earth-size budget, which involves the Chinese, Russians, Americans, and everybody else getting together and saying, we want to explore the universe. We want to explore our solar system. And we're done yelling at each other about stuff that's unbelievably inconsequential when you look past 100 yards, 100 miles in your own personal radius to your tiny carbon-based meat bag that exists for less than 100 years. Like, this kind of stuff that we're learning about here it's eternal almost as far as the universe is concerned. When the universe ends or when it begins, like these are problems and questions to life that we could potentially learn that humanity, before humanity was even remotely evolved, these questions were still there. They weren't asked by us, but did life evolve somewhere else in the universe? We'll never know until we can even look at the center of our own galaxy. I mean, this is even skipping on a puddle compared to the 200 billion galaxies in the universe. This is just a little bit, and hopefully we can learn more as this goes on. Hopefully it's a success. I hope this works out so well, because there are so many different countries and group of people working together on this. It's enheartening to think of it being a success and all this stuff going together.
Yeah. And so scientist Dan Marona says this. He says the goals of the EHT are to test Einstein's theory of general relativity, understand how black holes eat and generate relativistic outflows, and to prove the existence of the event horizon. And if that happens, we'll be playing that movie on this show.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, refresh our drinks, take a shot, and when we come back, we're going to have the amazing, most awesome guest, Chris Watson, on the show. We'll be right back, everyone.
I'm Right, and we're promoting secular feminism. And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Y'all ever wonder what it's like to be a redneck with empathy? Have you never heard of a Southerner who isn't a blathering bigot? Well, have I got the show for you. It's the Podunk Polymath Podcast, hosted by myself, Chris, and it's the sentiments of a secular, sarcastic, screwed-up Southern SJW and skeptic. You can find me and the show on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or your favorite podcatcher. Y'all stop on by and take it easy now, okay?
If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.
This is C-Web from ParanormalSkepticAcademy.com, and you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics. Prepare for the revolution. What was that?
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics and our poppy music tonight because we are excited, very excited, to have our next guest on. He has an amazing show, and I'm going to say that a couple of times because I think it drives him nuts that I say amazing as often as I do to describe his show. But we're going to have a guest on in just a second here that we've been pretty good friends with for, I don't know, like almost 2 years now. So, but before we do that, we want to give a really quick shout out to the Michigan Atheist Annual State Convention. We can't talk about it until today because we didn't know about it till last week when they finally officially announced it. So they're going to do a kind of two-parter this year. And so if you live in the Michigan area and would love to hang out with yours truly, make sure you message us and say, hey, we want to hang out. And if you would just rather go see a bunch of atheists and humanists talk and not hang out with us, then just don't tell us. But you should head right over to the Michigan Atheist 29th Annual State Convention, which will be held April 28th at 7:30 p.m. and will also continue all day long into April 29th. They're going to have different speakers such as Jennifer Bean from the Center for Inquiry Michigan, Matt Dillahunty, Greg Forbes, Frank Zindler, and many, many, many more amazing people. So we'll post the link right in the description if you would like to go. Let us know. We can hook you up with who can get you tickets. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you there.
On the flip side.
But without further ado, we want to introduce our next guest, Chris Watson. He runs a podcast dedicated to the sentiments of a secular, sarcastic, screwed up Southern SJW and skeptic nature. The show features pre-rambles, palavers, which we're going to find out what that means in a minute, post-rambles, and much, much more. The whole show is just amazing. It has a whole range of topics that affect the secular community. Among them, he applies social justice warrior themes and helps people navigate through his own personal experiences and those of his friends. He's talked with guests about sex work, polyamory, military PTSD, the problem with prisons, depression, and he even had, and get this is amazing, everyone, he even had a great interview with yours truly, the host of Cellar Door Skeptics.
Oh, man.
He loves hockey, and he cannot wait to get home from work to root for his favorite team, the Red Wings, even if they fail at every turn. Please welcome to the show, the bearded beauty, Chris Watson. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm amazing.
You're amazing. Come on, you gotta have more than that, man.
Amazingly awesome.
I almost gave you like intro music and everything, and I was like, that might be too much. You might get offended.
Why would I get offended? See, I almost cursed just now.
Yeah, well, because I did tell you were a Red Wings fan. We have an ongoing feud, everyone. We have an ongoing feud. If you listen to all our old shows that we've had Chris on, and we've been on Chris's show, we have an ongoing feud about who has the better hockey team. And we know this year it is definitely not my team.
Yeah.
We can admit that.
Yeah, y'all suck.
We can admit that. We'll flat out admit that. That's open and honest. You see, that's what you get when you come on our show, Chris, is that not only are we all named Chris, and this is going to be really hard to address who we're talking to. Yeah, I just realized
that. Holy crap.
But
Chris Cubed.
Chris Cubed, yeah. Damn. That sounds good. We might need a new host.
Three-dimensional.
But I can at least admit when the Red Wings suck, and they suck bad this year, so.
I have to be reminded that there's a hockey season going on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been watching a whole lot, honestly, because I've been too concerned with this, the Orange Overlord.
Yeah, Cheeto Man. We'll call him the
Cheeto and Chief.
We kind of backed off our minute by minute, hour by hour politics stuff after the election. We'll probably start getting back into a little bit more after he's basically kind of structured his administration, and we can pick on it pretty heavily, like the crazy stuff that Betsy DeVos just said, where she kind of praised Jim Crow schools and segregation schools. Like, there's some really weird stuff going out of that. So, I'm assuming you're probably freaking out in it right now over there.
She's just ignorant.
Yeah.
I don't even think she knows what she said, to be
I don't
honest
think
with
she
you.
does either.
Well, that's the West Michigan Reach. That's our contribution to our current society right now. It's just sad.
Well, before...
Yeah, DeVos is... Go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, go ahead, say what you say.
I was going to say DeVos is part of the Amway, the Am fam, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
The pyramid scheme.
She is.
Exactly. The multi-million-dollar pyramid scheme.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway. Ugh, stop. You're bringing me down, man. Damn it, Hannah. I blame Hannah.
It's always my fault. Blame the deaf kid.
Before we get too far into the show, I think it's only fair that you get to introduce your show your way. I've enjoyed listening to your show even before you started your own thing with Podunk Polymath. You used to have another show that you were on called UTBB, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and then you transitioned into this over the last year. So tell us a little bit about both of the types of shows, what created the transition, and what is the new outlook that you're showing to everybody who listens to your show.
Unbuckling the Bible Belt was more kind of a hardcore atheist, anti-theist type of thing me and Joe started. And that was kind of when I was first getting into atheism. Usually you're kind of all into it. You're hardcore. Like, I hate religion and everything. And so that was kind of the basis of that show. We'd tell stories. We'd, do news stories about it and basically just riff on religion and how much we hated it and the kind of crap they do all the time. Then I kind of did some things that were that were kind of dumb. So I kind of left the show to let them do it because I was going through some crap and I had to get my mind together. And I decided I wanted to get back into it with a different slant, more of a kind of I guess you could say a positive slant, trying to actually see if I could do something a little more positive, a little different. And that's why I decided I want to kind of go telling people stories about social justice issues and, issues that affect people, adversely, and try to get some information out there and talk to people that you don't usually hear about on other shows.
Yeah.
I guess of this type.
And one of the big things I like about your show, and I'm not saying, we don't do it, but, in your show, when you get to the plather part, right? When you get to the point where you're actually talking to somebody else, you're a very good listener. You are very good at allowing other people to talk, allowing them to present their opinions on things that maybe they're more expert in. I mean, I listened to your most recent show about sex work, and that's amazing. Like, it's crazy. I guess I never thought about sex work or any type of activism or anything like that. It never crossed my mind. And being able to hear your guests talk about these different things, and you allowed them to have the conversations, to me, it was a very eye-opening, point of view that I just never thought about.
Well, that's why a lot of times I'll have these guests on, because I want to learn more about it myself. So I'll have different people on so I can learn about the subject. It's not, like I said, it's usually I want to learn something or I want to bring awareness to a problem that not many people think about. And definitely that was both things on that one. I wanted to learn more about it, but I also wanted to see if kind of confront the problems that they're going through, I guess.
Yeah.
Sex workers.
Yeah.
I did learn a lot on that.
Well, and I did too. And I'll be honest, it's one of those things you never really think about. And maybe this is just a privileged thing to say. And I like having another person on here that I can talk to justice with sometimes, because sometimes some of the people this passes over. But that has been a passion of mine, something I've involved myself in, not in sex work, but in social justice type things. Yeah, I moonlight by night, buddy. You never knew. But there's always new things I can learn, and that's what I find. And I'm going to say amazing because I'm going to overuse that word for this show. And we should just title every show "Amazing Number 20."
We should have hashtag that.
We should just hashtag it. That should be my hashtag. Tanner is amazing. But I go through through these different phases, and so I listen to other podcasts for a specific reason, because I hope somebody can educate me on something I don't know about. I hope I can learn something. If I don't learn something from a show, I don't listen to it anymore. I'm done with it. For example, promoting secular feminism brought to light a lot of different issues inside of feminism I never thought about before. And I talk about that quite a bit, and I talk about that with my wife quite a bit. And, in our CFI group in Michigan, we'll be talking about this a little bit next week. That's a big prominent theme. And that's what I liked about your show, and that's why I want to encourage everybody to go out and check your show out, because you're not afraid to admit when you're wrong, except for you can't admit that the Red Wings are the best team overall.
Just stop.
I can't even say it with a straight face anymore because they suck.
You can't.
Year. But
we admit we're wrong on this show. I did it 2 weeks ago, so
you did. You always admit you're wrong.
It's important. It's important to be humble enough to be able to do that.
But that's what I like about your show. You have honesty in your show that I don't get out of a lot of other podcasts. There's an honesty to the Watson segment that I don't feel I always get from other podcasts.
The Watson segment. Okay.
I don't know what else to call it. If I say the Chris segment, nobody knows whether I'm talking about me, Hannah, or you. Yeah. It does. It fits, right? Come on.
Yeah. Technically it's called the palaver, and you were asking what it was. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the definition is.
Good, because I am asking.
Prolonged and idle discussion. Mostly the reason I picked it is because I'm a sucker for alliteration, as you can tell. Mm-hmm. So palaver, podunk, polymath, pre-ramble. And then if you read the intro, secular, sarcastic, screwed up stuff. S's, all S's. So I just like alliteration. So that's why I picked.
I got to know, where did you get palaver from? Did you Google this, or is this because I'm going to admit something. I'm going to nerd out for a second. Stephen King.
Yes, yeah, I already know what you're going to say.
Okay, so it's in the Dark Tower. I never knew what the bloody word was until I read the Dark Tower. Now, I read that a long time ago, but when I saw that in your thing, and I'll be honest, if you told me about this when you interviewed us, it went right over my head. I don't remember anything about it. And maybe it's because I smoked too much pot, but
No, it's because you're thinking how bad the Red Wings suck. It's bothering you.
It could be. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. I can see that point. But in all fairness, when I started prepping for the show, this week, and I was going through all your stuff, and I was like, palaver. Oh, I've heard that that's a Stephen King book. I was like, I have to ask you, is that the specific reason you used it, or was it more of a literacy type thing that either you Googled or you learned through your education?
Dude, it's pretty pathetic, actually, because I was looking for a word that alliterated with...
Seriously?
I was trying to find a word that started with P also, but I also wanted to see one that the theme is kind of podunk polymath. It's kind of supposed to be sort of old school, 1800s, countrified kind of thing or whatever. And palaver has that kind of ring to it, that Western feel almost.
Yeah.
Did you go to alliterate.com or something? You searching for all the different P words or what?
There is no alliterate.com, Mr. Wizard.
Come on.
Wait,
you know this already.
I went to the thesaurus
It's
and
close
looked
enough.
up words for, I forgot what it was, discussion or a conversation or something. I can't remember. Yes, I put a lot of thought into this before I actually put the show up.
You know what? And we can respect that because we did the same thing when we named our show. We didn't want to be like the whatever
Atheist analysis
insert,
number
yeah,
2.
insert whatever word, then atheist, then angry or whatever. We wanted to do something a little bit different. We did keep the skeptics thing in there because we tried to talk science, but skeptically, and we've talked about things that we've changed positions on multiple times. And so, like, we wanted the Cellar Door stuff to try to have some kind of little undertones of literary prowess or something along those lines. So, like, have you always been interested in that kind of stuff? Is this like a guilty pleasure of yours, or is this something that you? Well, I'm going to do something new. I want to get into something, and then you just kind of pick this like topic or this type of feel that you wanted to keep.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of wanted to do the SJW path. Mostly because that's something I've always been interested in before it was called that, but I've always been interested in social issues. And I kind of want to do something to actually feel like I'm helping people, I guess. I don't know. It's a little silly, I guess, but to try to issues that I was concerned about. And I'm trying to come out of the angry phase. And I'm trying to do things that might actually, help people in some small way. I know it sounds kind of pretentious, but, stuff that makes me feel like I'm doing something, I guess. And at the same time, learn about issues that I may not know everything or enough on. So that's mostly the reason, I think.
Well, it brings to mind the quotation that I use all the time, and our friend David Teachout used to give me massive eye rolls whenever I did it, but always brings back the "Thus spake Zarathustra" concept of the angry, and then or it's the camel, which is basically the beast of burden, and then the angry lion. And then the docile child or the learning child is basically you go from that. What you mentioned earlier is like you're the camel of the beast of burden as far as the believer and carrying all those traditions, and then you become the angry atheist, and now you've become the learning child, the humanist child, the one who wants to make things better and learn more and grow. And so this is something that Chris and I also have gone through. More Chris than me because I didn't come out of religion angry. But I was just kind of upset that I didn't know about a lot of these really big, important issues as far as politics and stuff. I lived a basically, a worry-free life in the middle-class white America that I grew up in. So, trying to make amends for that easy life, I try to take an important, pay attention to those topics. So this is our idea of doing something. So my assumption is that you're probably in the same vein. You're trying to do stuff socially with local people. Have you done charities or anything like that?
I do give to charities. I'm a little bit too introverted to actually go out and do things. Although I did go to a protest not too long ago, and it's like first time I've ever done anything like that. So
that's awesome.
And it kind of scared the crap out of me.
Did you make a sign? Was it funny?
No, I didn't.
There's a picture though. There is a picture on your Facebook page. We saw the picture. I saw the picture at least.
Yeah, I took the picture. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Introvert at a protest, yeah. And that's an ongoing thing there, too. We are watching, and they do it like every so often at the Capitol in Tennessee State Capitol.
Yeah.
Because our legislature is like majorities Republican. It's like a super majority, actually.
Yeah, you do live in a somewhat conservative state, don't you?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like a whole state filled with West Michigan politicians.
Michigan ain't doing too great themselves.
No,
they're kind of becoming the Kentucky of the North there.
Yeah, I won't.
I won't
contest that.
Kentucky of the North.
The Grand Rapids area was one of the only areas that favored Ted Cruz. I mean, through and through hard during the primaries. So if that's not an attestant to whatever it is, the conservative right religious sect is trying to pull in. I don't know what is, because Donald Trump is a 2 Corinthians kind of guy. He's not going to be reading biblical quotes while he's out. He's yelling at Congress right now, as far as I know.
Well, my father actually talked about Ted Cruz. Like, it's really weird because I try not to talk politics with my family much. You know, I mean, my sisters all have different opinions, and they're not as conservative as they used to be, but there are certain discussions we just don't have. And maybe it's because I'm an asshole, and I'll admit that. That's fine. You know, I am very pointed in my views. But it's funny because up here, my dad was all for Cruz. He thought Cruz was going to bring the whole world together. And I don't even understand, because when you look at any of his politics, you sit there and go, I don't see it. It's like libertarianism meets Christianity and has a bastard child together.
With an ego on steroids. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I really don't. I have nothing to add to that. It boggles the mind.
So tell everybody. So we talked about you being an introvert a little bit, right? So that's a kind of a good topic, because you run a podcast. You've ran another podcast before. How does that work with your introvertness? Do you procrastinate? What's the whole process behind what you do to prep for an episode?
Oh yeah, I procrastinate. I've gotten to the point where I do it like the day before it's going to come out, the night before, or whatever. It just depends what mood I'm in, because on the weekends I can get kind of lazy. But yeah, I usually do. I try to keep 2 weeks interviews. I keep an interview in the bag, so I'll be able, just in case something happens. Yeah, I don't really prep that much, to be honest with you. My interviews are more kind of off the cuff, stream of consciousness stuff. I let them talk mostly. I mean, that's not to say I don't do research on the subject. Most of these subjects I already know something about anyway. But I let them run the show pretty much, and the palaver is pretty much just them, and I let them lead the way, and I just ask leading questions basically.
So they do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. You're probably a great manager. You're probably great at delegating details and jobs off. I know a couple people who are really good with that.
I'm a supervisor mother, Joe. So.
There we go.
So tell us about a little bit where you want the show to go, right? You know, so we talked a little bit about the different segments. What's in the future for you?
I don't know. I like the way it's going now. I mean, I don't really have, unless I expand the pre-ramble part where I talk about issues. I thought about putting maybe segments in there, of a certain topic. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I might bring a guest every once in a while for that part. But other than that, I don't really have anything. I like the format as it is right now. That may change, of course. But I set it up this way for a reason, because I really thought it out beforehand. So I like the way it is right now. That, like I said, who knows what's going to happen in the future, though. I mean,
you never know, right? You never know. Trump could just put a ban on all podcasts that talk about him, and we'd all be fucked.
Well, then I would just say his name like 100 times in a row.
You could just be dragged away in the streets. Be like, I'm going to be so popular after this.
So you have a conference coming up, correct? There's a conference that, I don't know if you run the conference or if you sponsor, but there's a conference right in your area. So tell everybody about the conference.
So the conference is NanoCon 2017. It is in Nash Vegas, Tennessee. It is basically like it stands for National Nuns Conventions, what that stands for. And the keynote speaker is Matthew Dillahunty, Mandisa Thomas, JT Eberhardt, Kelly Wright are going to be there. There's going to be panels and discussions. I will be on a podcast panel with Bobby Carey of No Religion Required, Joe Kindick of UTBB. I think Kate from UTBB is going to be there too, Tucker Drake from the Atheist in Trailer Park, and Jen Aldridge from Another Atheist Podcast. And I'm probably leaving something out. But it's the 18th, which is the day after St. Patrick's Day, so don't be too hungover. Make plans ahead of time.
Pre-record.
The venue is changed once again. It's changed 3 or 4 times. I won't say why, but it's kind of screwed up the way. But anyway, right now it's actually at a church, Unity Church. I forgot the address. It's on the website if you go to nationalnuns.com. And if you follow Twitter feed at Nashville Nuns, you'll see that you can find the information. So tickets are $15 up till time of show, so time of the convention until they're sold out. It's the whole idea is supposed to they try to keep it cheaper than most other conventions. That's because it's kind of entry level. It's for people who want to find more out about secularism, humanism / atheism, whatever, and kind of get a vibe and see what's going on, and maybe get some literature, see the talks, and see if it's something they're interested in. So,
well, awesome. Well, Chris, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Tell everybody where they can catch your podcast, and we'll make sure we post all the links right into the description.
Okay. The website's thepodunkpolymath.com. I'm on Twitter at Podunk Polymath. I'm on, Google Plus. Nobody ever goes to. YouTube. I'm on YouTube / the Podunk Polymath. Emails podunk.polymath@gmail.com. My call-in number is 615-378-POPO 7676, which those numbers 7676 also stand for the freedom you get when you listen to my show. And I think I've covered everything. Patreon, of course, the Podunk Polymath, if you want to waste your money.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I don't think contributing to you would be a waste of money. So I would say that. And except for if you spent it on Predator's gear, then I would have to say that. So
Oh boy! Okay.
If you ever send Chris here, if you ever send Chris there money, he's gonna put a shirt on and it's gonna have like your name. Chris Tanner has provided the funds for this shirt. I guarantee it.
And I'll wear it. And I'll wear it proudly.
All right, fair enough. And you never know. Maybe because like I said, I got to go to Dallas. Maybe I could convince my work to fly me into Nashville.
Just drop you off there and make you walk back.
Instead of coming back to Grand Rapids. And if that's the case, that would be awesome.
That would be funny. I'd have a big sign, Chris Tanner, the crappy Red Wings fan.
Atheist
I'll tell you,
Red Wings fan.
Will you pick me up at the airport if that's the case?
Oh yeah, I will, baby.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm gonna call my boss. I'll message you tomorrow. This sounds horrible. This is horrible radio. Nobody wants to listen to us talk about this. Anyway, for everybody listening, make sure you go over and check out Podunk Polymath Podcast. We'll post all the links in the description. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. We're gonna take a quick commercial break. I think we could take a commercial break, can't we?
Sure.
Is that what we get to do, Hannah?
Mm-hmm.
Am I allowed to take a break?
More beer.
Yeah.
Fill up the sauce.
Yeah, somebody's got to take a break because if I can't get another drink, I'm going to cough my lungs out. But thank you. Make sure we thank Chris. He was a great guest tonight. Make sure you definitely head over there. And if you're going to be in the Nashville area, make sure you definitely head over to the conference, NaNonCon, I think is the way he says it. I don't know. I can't pronounce anything, so I'm just going to say it that way, and he can correct me later.
Just look at the link.
So we're going to post, make sure we post links to the event right in the description. If you are in the Nashville area and you want to go, make sure you head right over there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about more amazing stuff with the market crash right here on Cellar Door Skeptics.
Badass host of the Unbuckling the Bible Belt podcast, and you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hey y'all, this is Tucker from the Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. And I might live in a beer can, but I ain't no inbred redneck. And if you listen to my podcast, I'm gonna learn you something. And no, I ain't talking about how to marry your cousin and not have kids with 16 fingers and stuff like that. I mean, I actually talk about real stuff and teach people where the Bible stole its stories from. So y'all give me a listen, would you? Thank you.
Considering how you want to help Cellar Door Skeptics, head over to iTunes or your favorite podcast app and give us a rating, because every rating helps push us in front of new listeners. And since our main goal here at Cellar Door Skeptics is to provide the most accurate information possible, we hope that more ratings will mean that more people get to hear the topics that we're presenting. We don't insist that we get a 5-star rating, but Hannah's favorite number is 5, and the more gold stars he gets, the more special he's gonna feel. So what do you say? Head on over to iTunes or Google Play, give us a rating, and help engage with Cellar Door Skeptics today.
This is Matthew the Apostle from In the Name of God, the podcast, and you are listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Now, back to the show.
Well, welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics.
That was a short commercial break, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's always kind of short. It is.
It's funny, everybody watching Chris run back over. The commercial's over. Oh, no! Run across the room and put his drink down and get back on the cam.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We had a great interview with our friend Chris. And sometimes, part of doing the podcast is we get to help promote other shows that we enjoy. And I'll be honest, Chris, I didn't get to tell this story when Chris is on, and hopefully he listens to this in post-production and he can kind of comment a little bit later. But in all fairness, the first time I met Chris was at ReasonCon, I think 2 years ago. And when we were down at ReasonCon, somebody mistook me for him because we had the same name, and we both had beards. And so he mistook, somebody was like, Are you from the UTBB? And I was like, well, I don't know what that is. Well, the UTBB podcast. And I was like, I really don't know what that is. I'm Chris. And he's like, oh. I was like, but I think that guy over there in the shitty fucking, the really shitty
Panthers
jersey, that's Chris. And he's like, oh, you don't like them? Okay. And I was like, no, I think the guy's cool, but I never met him. So anyway, really weird story to go into.
And an interesting, just derogatory slam on his favorite stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's our gimmick, right? I say amazing. He gave me crap on the commercial break about how many times I said amazing, so.
Well, he said it like 4 times, too.
Did he?
I think so. You guys were both slamming it. Oh,
Yeah.
well. Either way, amazing. That's the big word for our show, apparently. But, yeah, no, it's awesome when he comes on. He's a great guest. He's fun. He's somebody that we like to talk to, and we see him. We interact with his group and him on Facebook and on social media all the time.
Awesome. So we're going to talk about a pending market crash. Is that what we're going to be talking about, Hannah?
Yeah, it's kind of, sort of, pseudo, a little bit like a, not quite a conspiracy theory, but it's some freaky stuff that's got some ups and downs in the market, and it's got a lot of people just in the economic world yelling and giving weird, scary side notes when they give their speeches.
So what I want you to do is set up a backdrop.
All right.
Paint the picture for everybody.
Paint it. I'm gonna Bob Ross this shit. All right, so we just passed the 10-year mark, right? So everybody remembers that is of age enough to at least click on the link and listen to this show. The 10-year mark around 2007, 2008, we saw the subprime housing market meltdown. The bubble burst. The Wolf of Wall Street got eaten by his own cubs. The big thing is that these types of cycles are, every 10 years or so, we see ups and downs. We had 2 major ones in the last 15 years. And so the issue is we just hit a 10-year mark. Where is it? And one of the things that I've talked to a few people who are economics experts, just that's their field, they work in, and listening to people online, on NPR, the economics know-how, the people who are trained in these fields are like, there's something, we don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know what, but something usually is this weird tipping point, something unexpected in most cases. Sometimes someone predicts it. So someone did predict the housing prime, the subprime mortgage crisis before it happened, and everybody's like, it's not that big of a deal. Well, it was, obviously, and it almost essentially crashed the American markets, and the Dow lost thousands and thousands of points over it. Well, in 2007 was the very beginning. So on January 3rd, Own It Mortgage Solutions filed Chapter 11. And this was the first one in 2007. It was a massive failure, and it was a group owned by Merrill Lynch. And Merrill Lynch, if anyone knows, is big banking conglomerate or whatever. But like, there was just a cascading slam of these things. American Freedom Mortgage felled for Chapter 7. Mortgage Lenders Network USA, the 15th largest subprime lender, burned down for $3.3 billion in loans. And then HSBC, they warned. They said there's going to be bad debt provisions for all their investors and stuff, and so they would be 20% higher than expected, and roughly $10.5 billion in pending losses. And HSBC fired its head of U.S. mortgage lending, and we saw Alan Greenspan, and he said this doesn't look good, and that sent off market tremors. And then the Dow Jones dropped 400 points in one day, which was really not that bad as 2007 and 2008 went on. But like, this was the beginning of it in 2007. These are some weird things.
And so for me, on my side, I actually have some experience with this, just so everybody knows. And I'll admit, I made some mistakes in my past life, right? For me, I had one of these shitty mortgages. I guess I got a tree explicit tag on though.
Yeah, I think we just hit 3 of them.
I think we suffered through it. But I personally had a shitty mortgage. I was one of the. You probably wouldn't consider me a victim. I consider me a victim, I guess, because I was young, I was stupid. I had.
And they told you it would be super easy to take care of the payments or whatever.
Yes. I had a friend that had gotten a house through this realtor. The realtor came to me. He said, I can get you a house. I'm like, well, I make $10.25 an hour. I'm 19 years old. I make $10.25 an hour.
I can get you a $70,000 house, no problem.
Oh, no. Mine was $109,000
Dios
house.
mío, son.
Yeah. And now I got promotions a little bit, and so we waited. It took us 6 months to a year, the girl I was dating at the time, for us to get the house. Of course, she didn't put it in her name. It was all in my name.
Oh.
And this was before we were married.
Well, that's what I did, because I bought my house on my own name. Yep. My wife was in a different country.
But what happened with me was I was able to, I bought this house, and I didn't make a lot of money at the time. I mean, now, I did make more than $10.25 when I actually bought the house. But I got an interest-only loan with a balloon interest rate after 2 years or 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
So you didn't get a fixed rate?
I did not get a fixed rate.
That's bad.
Yeah, I know. I know that now. Thank you. I've lost my house. I had to go through
20/20 hindsight, jerk. Yeah,
I had to go through all of that. Like, I have to. This is the first year I can actually say this is not on my record anymore. I don't actually have to claim this on anything. I don't have to deal with this with my credit score anymore. Well, I had to deal with that for 7 years on my credit score. And
that's awesome. That's almost like a Dave Ramsey moment.
Yeah, I was very excited.
Here. I'm debt free. Well, you're not quite debt free, but
I'm not debt free. No, but outside of student loans, I don't owe any debt. Outside of student loans and some medical bills, because we don't have universal health care. But sorry, I don't want to go on that rant. But I got sold this house. It was a great deal. My monthly payment was $560 a month.
Back then?
Back then, yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty big hit when you're making $10 plus an hour.
But at the exact same time, as I got promotions, it felt better. I was able to pay for it. But all I was paying was interest. I wasn't paying it on the principal. And on
you were
top
just making
of that,
minimum payments.
I had to pay my escrow out of pocket. I had to pay every year. I had to pay my taxes for the house out of pocket. And so, at first it was great. Then all of a sudden my balloon hit, right? All of a sudden the balloon popped. And my interest payment went up to $875 a month.
Holy moly.
So $525 to $875, just like that. And that's interest only. We're not even talking principal. We're talking interest only.
Your total payment was $800.
Yeah, your total payment. So
like you're talking basically the minimum payment that you were making was $800 just for your mortgage payment.
Yes.
So yeah, your interest went up $300. So your principal stayed the same, and your interest went up $300.
Yeah. So I had a heart attack, and I didn't even understand that's what the balloon meant, and that's partly my fault. But I had a heart attack.
Well, that's you say partly your fault, but that's actually the last part of this segment. I want to talk to you about the illiteracy of the American people and the credit system.
So then what happened is I went into shock, and I went and started meeting with a financial advisor. I tried to refinance. Now, I was making $15 an hour or $16, something like that. So I was making more money. I gotten married. I had my wife's income, which wasn't a lot, but I did have my wife's income at the time. Guess what I couldn't do? Refinance.
You couldn't afford the closing costs?
No. They wouldn't refinance me. They denied me. I was denied. That's part of this whole problem, is they got you into a loan, and when you went to refinance, they denied you. So guess what?
So it was in the provisions. You actually had some white or some fine lettering saying that.
No, not even that.
So how can someone...
They went in and said, you don't make enough money to refinance.
Well, that's the thing. Is it's you to refinance, either you refinance directly with the people that you got the loan from. Is that what you were trying to do?
Yes. And my loan got sold.
You need to go somewhere else.
Well, I tried. So at first, my loan got sold 7 times in 3 years.
Wow.
In 7 years, it got sold 3 times or 7 times.
If you refinance, you need to go somewhere else.
I did. I tried to go somewhere else, and they told me, you don't make enough money to refinance. We can't refinance you because you don't have enough equity in the house, because I was paying only interest.
That is subprime, man. Holy shit.
And that was the worst part of this whole thing. So guess what happened? In the next 2 years, my loan was scheduled to go up to $1,200 a month in interest.
That is...
No principal.
That is
no
victimization.
Taxes.
That's victimization. That really is.
Yes. And so I want to stop you, because I want to stop this. Other people can feel victimized, right? I made a mistake. I made a very bad mistake. I've paid for my mistake, I'll be honest, quite a bit. I had really bad credit for a long time. And I've had to work very hard to get through my credit because of this. It screwed me on so many things, but this was a learning experience. But now think about this. Think about what happened to me. If that happens to other people, and I'm not saying I was rich. I was definitely in the low class. I was definitely a lower class citizen at the time. All I wanted was to live the American dream, to own a house, to take my family and allow them to live it. And we didn't even live in like the best neighborhood. I was living in a very crappy school district in an area that was multicultural, which I enjoyed. Well, part of the reason I actually bought in Wyoming was because I enjoyed the atmosphere there. I mean, I had neighbors that were illegal. I had other neighbors that would throw parties, and who knows how many illegal people were there. But we would throw these multicultural parties. They didn't care I was white. They just you like tequila? Yeah, I like tequila. You like tacos? I love tacos. They're like, you're awesome.
I love when my neighbors throw parties and stuff like that. I think it's an environment that every person should be in at some point in their life, where they are the only person that doesn't speak the majority spoken language in that party. That will give you a bit of a humble pie slice, because you are completely and totally at the behest of them, whatever they want to do. So,
yes,
I mean,
exactly.
It's so cool.
The problem, though, so that was why I actually lived in Wyoming, and where I lived, the school district was really horrible. But at the time, my kids were too young; they didn't even go to school. But the problem is I'm not the only victim, right? Now, if you take that and compound that on everything else that's happening, what do you think's happened, Chris? Why do you think we have the crisis? Why do you think we have all these different bad debts? And this is why,
and it's still going on. It's still being felt.
And this is exactly why, and I don't know, I mean, maybe I'm speaking on an opinion here, but I have a hard time.
This is where our socialist streak comes in right here.
Yes, because of types of things like this, because capitalism ruined America in this atmosphere.
It's dog eat dog. See, capitalism will eat people. And that's one of the reasons why I love the idea of the regulatory state. So, the difference between, full-on socialism, full-on capitalism, and the democratic socialism idea, where you get some regulation and things that are being controlled and keeping everything in check. So, the whole thing of this, I basically gave, a list of companies that they did to you. And people like you, they took advantage of, people who were willing to sign their, below the bottom line because they were promised, the American dream, a house, a small patch of land, a picket fence, and some grass or whatever. Well, very, very quickly, the illiteracy and the credit system quickly caught up with you and these people, and, it harms you. And who benefits? Who benefits from that? The people who trick you into these loan sharking things. Well, those people, they bet on themselves a little bit too long, and they they failed. The whole market just crashed once all of that fake air was let out of their sails. So what we have here is this historical intuition predicts a decade-ish cycle, like I said earlier on, the peaks and the valleys. And we don't really know how, we don't have a very good predictive tool to quantify the intensity of those peaks and valleys. And so CNN or CNBC and Forbes have been posting how to survive pages. And that's the thing that the next section for this segment is just like, okay, financial pages that are in charge of, giving information to people who are in the financial sector, are saying, okay, now here's how to survive the next crash. Here's how to survive this thing that we don't know when it's going to come, but you should do these things. Like, this is stuff you see people who are well off, people are educated, people are financially sound. They start to do. They move things around and they set themselves up so they can cover the pending ups and downs.
Yeah. And that's what's crazy, Chris. I think we should take a quick commercial break, though, because this is an interesting topic, and I think I kind of monopolized it with my story.
Well, we'll slam the bear markets next.
Yeah, I think we should go into the bear markets, because I think this is a good segment, and it's personal for me. So why don't we take a real quick commercial break? Let's promote UTBB Podcast, and when we come back, we'll talk more about market genocide and what we can do to fix it. We'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hey guys, this is Wyatt Mathers from the Atheist Avengers Podcast. You are listening to the Cellar Door Skeptics. Prepare for the revolution.
What's something I could do with a very sexy lady friend of mine that people would find provocative, interesting, and entertaining enough to tune in week after week? Oh, I know. A podcast. If you'd like to hear me and Kate be provocative and thought-provoking week after week, join us on the Unbuckling the Bible Belt podcast. We'd love for you to be part of our audiological three-way.
Looking for something new and exciting, or maybe just a change from the old atheist show format? Cellar Door Skeptics Podcast provides listeners with hours of enjoyment each week on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out as we talk politics, religion, science, reviews of books and music, along with the occasional interview just for a twist. Join Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern as they bring fresh content to you. Walk with us through the Cellar Door as we help you prepare for the revolution. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, and even on Facebook.
This is Matthew the Apostle from In the Name of God, the podcast, and you are listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Now, back to the show.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us at Cellar Door Skeptics. We
It's still
are
here.
back.
Wow.
We are, yeah. We're still here. And we haven't even hit an hour and a half yet. That's how awesome we are. We've been able to do 2 topics. This is our 3rd, and we're able to split this up a little bit. And we're even still trying to cut the show down to make sure it's a digestible form for everybody here, because we don't want you to have to go home and listen to us over 5 days. That was our old show. We want to work towards making it a digestible show while giving you intelligible intellect and great interviews. But we were talking about the market crash, and I had a little bit of a personal story a few minutes ago, and I apologize if I monopolize the time, Hannah. You know, I mean, because this is actually a little bit more personal for me.
I didn't
than some of the
know
other
this one
things.
would be like
no, you didn't.
this big of a hit.
This is some of the things I don't always share my whole life, and this is one of the things I'm definitely not proud of. I'm not proud of what happened with me in the stock market.
Well, nobody would be
and
happy.
I'm not happy with what happened with that. And you know, it's funny because, and here's another story that I can tell.
Oh no!
But it's funny because my dad and I, had issues when I was growing up, obviously because of my rebelliousness. and my decision to start to move away from conservatism and Christianity.
So you stopped listening to Rush daily?
I never did. It was just all on his side. But in all fairness, what happened was him and I, when I lost my house, my dad helped me move. My dad's always been there to physically help me.
So he's always been a dad, even though he disagrees.
Yes.
He's always been a dad.
He did not financially support me. He did not bail me out when I lost my house. There was no money that got changed hands. He did not even offer. And I'll be honest, at the time I was a little bitter. Now I'm very grateful he didn't. I'm actually very, very grateful I didn't get wrapped up and still stuck in that and waste all his money and then, a year later dump the house because, again, my rent would have gone up and blah, 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 blah. But my dad stood there and he gave me a hug. And my dad doesn't cry very often. He's not, that's not his forte. He hugged me and he started to cry a little bit. He says, "I'm very sorry. I can't believe this has come to this." He says, "I don't understand how this happened." Because my dad helped me. He worked with me to get my loan.
Yeah.
He didn't advise against it. He did give me some advice that said, I don't know if this is the best deal, but you have to make your own decisions. And he let me make my own decisions, and I failed. I aggressively failed, here in this. But the nice thing is that my dad sat there and he took the sorrow in the same way. Whether he took it personal or not, I don't know. But he did sit here and we had a moment. And my dad doesn't drink, so it's not like I could be like, "Here, let's have a beer together and reminisce about this." My dad's not like that. But we talked about it, and he said, I apologize for the economy failing for you. That's essentially what he said, is that I feel the economy has failed you.
I wouldn't so much say the economy itself. So we're going to fast forward and move up what I was going to end the segment with essentially the credit market illiteracy that I alluded to a little while ago. So this is a great example of that. So your father, with all intents and purposes, really did want you to succeed. He wanted you to have your house and have everything work out well, and he wanted you to learn and be smart and not wasteful. But he wanted you to be successful. I mean, no parent wants to see their kid make an investment on a house and then lose that investment, lose all that money. I mean, it's a terrible thing, and nobody would ever. Most people would never wish something that traumatic on anyone else, but the way that we look at these things and the way that people understand the market in our world and our society, I didn't so much understand the credit rate system when I was younger, but my parents taught me to be cheap, to be thrifty, to prize cash over credit. And this is a little bit different than, the way that our social structure works. And so I'm considered, old school and cheap because I use cash and because I save most of my cash and try to, hoard it for, that dangerous thing. Well, I've been very well insulated from any kind of ups and downs from the markets because of these tendencies. And these are good things. But also, on top of that, it gave me a chance to learn about, how buying houses and what the ups and downs in the market were. And those types of things. I'm sure your dad, if he'd have known that this was in your future, he would have concentrated a little bit more on this to teach you about, watch out for lending practices that say, we'll give you a great rate at the beginning, but you know what? In a couple of years, we're going to come back for you.
Well,
that's
actually fair because, when we grew up, I won't say we were middle class, right? We didn't grow up upper class. We grew up middle class. And my parents both rented houses for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, my dad didn't start investing in certain things until later in life. My dad was not like a 20-year-old investor like you were, right? My dad had bills. He had a wife that liked to spend money. Nothing against my mom. Great woman.
I didn't buy my house until 28, but still.
So my dad was kind of the same way. He was a late investor. It's funny because my dad actually invests more money now than he did when he was younger. And that's because
common.
He started late, though. But
Yeah,
my dad started late. And it's funny because we've actually talked about where we invest, and he's actually... Nowadays, I don't invest money in the same way he does. And he says, well...
It's hard.
Don't worry about it as much because you can be a late investor and you can play the stock market more. It's just a higher gamble. And we talk about these things, ironically enough. I mean, that's actually part of our topics of conversation.
I've got a meeting with my investment portfolio advisor in the next couple of days about setting up a college fund for my daughter. These type of things you start early on in my book.
We're just in different boats because my father taught me that you want an education, you pay for it.
Well, yeah.
You don't. It doesn't matter if it costs you $1 million.
The only thing I can hope
he ain't
for,
gonna pay for it.
I can hope that in some way, shape, or form that the U.S. government will decide to treat the public education system as something that is something that could be universally funded. And then all this money that I invest, she could use it like a down payment on her house or something, and have an awesome setup. So, I mean,
depends on who people vote for, right? But one of the things we were talking about earlier is the stock market crash, right? And how to prepare for it. Because, in all fairness, I've made mistakes. You probably have made very few mistakes compared to me, but I made some mistakes. And so, what do we want to do? We want to help present different plans for other individuals as we close the segment out to how do you figure out where you can do things.
Yeah, we got Forbes and CNBC here, and Forbes' basic idea is that they're saying that central bank driven rates into the ground. So we know this, obviously, interest rates have been terrible, low. And so when interest rates are really low, we see debt increased and we see inflation, and they're changing that. But the Forbes article basically says that bear markets are reality, and you need to learn this. And life is difficult, but the great truth is one of the greatest truths is that a great truth, once we only see it, is the truth. We transcend it. So once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept that, then life is no longer difficult. Because once it's accepted, the fact of life is difficult, it no longer matters. So people need to basically treat their finances in this way, that it's difficult to invest and do it right. There's no question. There's never no risk. But you really need to learn that it's dangerous out there. It's here, take this. It's dangerous out there. The Link moment, right? Where you get the sword that shoots the other little tiny swords. I mean, this is an important thing that people and children need to learn early on, is that you need to be prepared. Because anyone, I tell this my mother all the time, is that everyone out there is trying to do one of two things. They're trying to steal from you, and they're lying to you. And if you treat the world like that financially, this is a financial thing. If you treat the world like that, you will be less spendthrifty with your money. You won't throw your money around, and you will very, very skeptically look at any kind of claims where people promise you the world for a few of your silver coins.
Yep. So Forbes says there's some rules or some steps here. The first one is recognize bear markets as a reality. Life is difficult. This is a great truth. One of the great truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see this as a truth, we can transcend it.
Yeah.
Once we truly know that life is difficult, we can understand and accept it as a lifelong goal, right?
Yeah.
Bear markets are a reality. The timing of the market correction is something that can become as a surprise.
And that's what we're worried about, is the correction.
The crash.
The market correction is fancy terminology for it. So like they're saying that every day you hear the Dow, the new record high. The Dow, new record high. Well, you know what happens when the Dow has new record highs for a month? There's a thing called a market correction. And when the market correction hits and says, listen, all those record highs you were hearing about, yeah, they were incorrect. The market has been growing without any kind of checks. And so we're going to reduce everything, and all the people who have investments that are really risky are going to take an absolute hit. That's the market correction everybody's fearing.
Yeah. The next one that they have is check your asset allocation, right? It's been said that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war, right? The same is true with investing. It's during a bull market that we should ensure that our asset allocation is better realistic and aligned with our financial objectives. The goal is to have a place and investment and plan that we can stick to even during a down market. So if you're investing 30% of your salary into the market because it's booming and you're making money off that. When it crashes and you start losing money, you can't afford to lose 30% of your salary to the market. And so the whole point is it's not, and it's kind of funny because the company I work at, when I first got hired, within the first month, they said, it's not about how fast you can run, but about the duration of your run. And so I can make 1 million changes in the first month, but if none of them last, I wasted my breath and I lost the company money. That's how I see it.
Potentially.
Yes. And so the whole point is if you have a bunch of great ideas, don't dump them on everybody at one time and force everybody to go through 100 million changes because it's going to lose the company money in the long run because if they're not sustainable, it's not a logical decision. Well, the whole thing with this thing is that you have an asset allocation. If you dump a large amount of money into this that you can't afford to lose, you have to be very careful because in the long run, in the free fall, and what do we just talk about? Bear markets, right? What happens, ups and downs. Yeah. If you can't afford to lose that money, don't invest that large amount of money.
Well, that's kind of the thing. And so that first sentence that you give, it's been said that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So what they're saying is that the more you sweat when the markets are calm and doing well, like when it's peaceful and everything's happy. So the more risk you're taking then. Once the market goes to, the hell and you need to get it out of the risky and get it into the slow, you've made your money in the low craziness, but relatively peaceful moments. And you get your money out of the craziness. You just need to be quick enough to get your money out of the really bad stuff. So dealing with the recessions and dealing with things along those lines, you basically need to have a good idea of what the market's going to be doing and paying attention to the right people and who can give you, there's a stimulus, there's a package, there's companies failing that the government's going to bail out. Well, we do have right now a government that it says that it's not going to be a welfare state. It's going to cut government spending significantly. But we do know that the Republicans are very strangely hypocritical in the fact that they love an open market capitalist system, but they do also really love the fact that corporations get welfare on a regular basis when it comes to tax-free operations. And so these to me are also stimulus plans. So the fact that Trump wants to reduce corporate spending or corporate taxes to roughly 15% across the board, that is a massive corporate stimulus program. And so what we're going to see is this really weird fluctuations in the market, and we'll see if this money gets directed back down to us or not. But I have a hard time believing that we'll see that trickle down, as it's been relatively proven to be incorrect. This kind of economic stimulus plan is really going to help a lot of people, and it's going to cause a lot of, I would say, hoarding. These big companies are going to take all of this money. It's going to take them out of the government in hopes that they will invest in the infrastructure and the programs in our economy, and it won't happen. And when that happens, there's going to be a bottleneck. There's going to be a place where we all need money to be, and it's not there because greedy people just don't want to spend it. And there's going to be a crisis, and that kind of, that tipping point, the flicking stone that starts a fire. And that's what I think is going to be this, this tipping point for this to survive the recession that's going to be coming. We just don't know when.
They talk about examining each type of fund. Contribute to high expense ratios and a falling market often cause people to sell actively managed funds at the wrong time. A little bit of what you touched on earlier. Number 4, follow the 5-year rule, right? A good rule of thumb is to not invest any money in the stock market that you'll need over the next 5 years.
We're talking Warren Buffett here.
A little bit, yeah. And for example, for me, I just bought a house. In reality, I actually need to invest in my house to build the wealth in my house because I got a really good deal in the house. And if I dump it into stocks and bonds and all these other things, I'm not going to have money to invest in my house. Well, the difference is that my retirement will probably come from my house in the form of either an alleviation of bills because I won't have to pay it because I pay my house off.
I call it concentration of debt.
Or it'll be because of the fact that I've invested in my house, I can sell it and move into a place that I don't have to worry about paying every month, right? Or I can pay an old folks home to take care of me and shove catheters up my dick or something like that. You know, whatever.
Well, I mean,
whatever it is. I mean, what does that for a living? So,
oh man, hey honey, I need a new one.
Fair enough, right? And we've talked about that. She's already told me she'll get me a nurse because she does want to do some of those things. But you got to think about it, right? With at least 5 years worth of expenses out of the market, an investor is more likely to weather a bear market knowing that the immediate needs are taken care of.
And cash assets. This is the biggest one for me. I was seeing something.
And this is where businesses fail if they don't.
Oh, yeah.
This is a huge thing. And I'll be honest with you. Like, I worked for a company called Hadley Incorporated, and they dealt with semi-truck horns.
And they're going to Google your name and Google this.
Whatever. But Hadley Products made they're the largest American-made semi-truck horn company in the world. They are the third largest completely in the whole wide world of manufacturing, but they're the largest in the United States. Now, I sat through a monthly presentation from the CFO of the company, and we talked about cash assets. We talked about these things. It was weird because I've never worked for... I worked, I worked for Steelcase, and they don't talk about these things. They don't talk about cash. They don't talk about any of this stuff publicly, right? They probably talk about it internally. They don't talk about it publicly. This company did that. I mean, and they went through all sorts of different things and said, hey, look at our cash to debt ratio.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about this publicly with their employees. Now, I was a very low-paid employee, and they had a lot of low-paid employees that worked for them.
What about my cash assets,
They did. But the difference was, though, the company was honest in explaining their 5-year rule in the fact that if they invested all this money, they would have nothing to get back out, and they would have to lay X amount of people off. Now, that could have been a tactic, right? That could be a tactic to keep people here, to keep people in the moment, to keep people at that company. But at some point, at least they were being somewhat honest with their cash flow.
Well, they basically gave their business plan to you. So that's important. Like knowing exactly what the company that you're working for, what their basic plans are for financially investing in themselves and keeping track and keeping true to whatever message or plan that they have. I mean, basically setting up a business plan and seeing it to fruition is actually quite rare. It's one of the things that I've been trying to do with my small business is basically set up a good, solid foundation for what you're going to do with finances. And one of the biggest things is to stay out of debt. So as long as your money is making you money, this is one of the areas that it takes a few minutes for people to understand that who don't really understand what it is to have money. Is that when you have money, when your money makes interest, it makes you money as opposed to costing you money. You have, instead of debts, you have investments. And so your investments accrue interest, and that interest is in the positive end instead of the negative end. Most people in the United States have debts that accrue negative costs. And so if you can stay out of debt or work, I mean, you really have to diligently work for it. But if you can stay out of debt, you can cut, especially credit card costs and that kind of stuff, only buy things with cash. If you can cut out debt, then the next thing you know, you are saving money on a consistent basis. I mean, what I mentioned a little while ago is that I'm now below it because of recent purchases for my house and rebuilding the kitchen and doing a lot of housing upgrades. But millennials that have $10,000 in the bank there's less than 10% out of all. I mean, 90% of millennials don't have $10,000 in the bank, and that's a massive problem when it comes to future and debt and being able to cover emergency costs and stuff. And this is Forbes saying, stay out of debt. Do everything you can to stay out of debt, because in most people's experience, with little debt relative to their income and assets, they're more likely to weather that bear market that we talked about, when you need to recognize these things are real. If, let's say, you get hit with a crappy market and your investments lose money, or your furnace goes bad, can you survive that cost? And a lot of people can't.
No. And that's actually fair, because my mother-in-law and father-in-law were like that for a long time. They own 2 houses. They own their cars outright. Now, they make sacrifices for it. My father-in-law passed away 3 years ago, rest his soul. And my mother-in-law has still continued that practice. The difference is, and maybe this is the difference between you and me, Hannah. I have an iPhone, you have a shitty Android. And we're talking a shitty phone.
It's Seller's got to be
It's always
dick.
a dick. You do have a shitty phone. I'm sorry. My phone can... Anyway, we'll have that debate in a couple weeks.
Maybe we'll have that. We'll have,
Let's have that debate.
Android versus iPhone debate in the near future.
We will. Actually, you and I are going to debate this because I want to school you and I want you to admit you're wrong. But let's look at the principle here. I pay more for my phone than you do. It costs me more. My cable, my internet costs me more than you do. I'm now learning how to transition my thought process and my pleasure centers. Because of the I like the immediate gratification of having the fastest internet, having the best, TV. I don't even have time to watch half the TV. I don't have time to watch the hockey games. I don't have time for any of this.
I have the lowest speed internet I can buy.
You do. But that sucks for you because you couldn't actually run a podcast without me.
No.
But you owe me money. Anyway, but let's go back to the bare principles of it all. Don't be in debt. I've taken pages out of your book and said, I'm going to work to not be in debt. I owe for medical bills and for school only. That's all I have left. I don't have other debt. I need a new bed. I deal with what I got. I need a new car. I pay cash, or I drive the car with the backed-in rear end. And so it is what it is. All we're doing is encouraging everybody to go out, look at your finances. If we can all get out of debt, we can screw the government over faster than you can even imagine and create a socialist government that takes over the world. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to Cellar Door Skeptics. We'll be back next week with another episode right here, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much and have a great night, everyone.
Spreaker, CellarDoorSkeptics.com.